My God, Grandma, they think I attacked him. The words burst through the phone, sharp and panicked. I'm at the police station. He hit me, but they believe him. If you love real emotional stories, hit subscribe, we post one every week. By the time I threw on my coat, the fire that used to light up courtrooms was already burning in my chest again. I'd buried my prosecutor badge 5 years ago, but tonight, it might as well have been pinned back on. Which station, Lily? I asked, voice steady even though my hands shook. Downtown. Grandma, they handcuffed me like a criminal. That was all I needed. Don't say a word to anyone. Not one. I'm on my way. 18 minutes later, I pushed through the precinct doors, my heart pounding hard enough to drown out the buzzing lights overhead. The young officer behind the desk, badge read P. Daniels, looked up, smirking at first. Then his expression changed when recognition hit him like a punch. Mrs. Reynolds. I didn't know it was your granddaughter. We were just. Where is she? In interview room 2, but ma'am. I leaned forward, lowering my voice to that courtroom tone that once made grown men tremble. Officer Daniels, you have 30 seconds to open that door, take off those handcuffs, and tell me why a bruised 16-year-old girl is sitting in a cell while her stepfather sleeps comfortably at home. He swallowed hard. Her stepdad, Mr. Carter, said she went crazy, started smashing his car with a bat. Claimed she attacked him when he tried to stop her. Said she fell down the stairs after. Of course he did, I muttered. Where is Mr. Carter now? He, went home. Didn't want to press charges. Said she needs help. The same script I'd heard from 100 abusers. Keys. Now. He obeyed. The hall smelled like coffee and regret as we passed other officers pretending not to notice me. They all knew who I was. They also knew they'd screwed up. Lily sat inside, wrists cuffed to a table too big for her small frame. Her hair was a mess, one eye swelling dark purple. When she saw me, her chin wobbled. Grandma, I didn't touch him. I swear. Unlock her, I snapped. Daniels fumbled with the keys. The cuffs hit the metal with a clank, and Lily lunged into my arms. She smelled like fear and cheap soap. Tell me everything, I said softly, keeping my hand on her shoulder. She hesitated, glancing at the officer. Out, I ordered. He started to protest. I didn't have to say a word, just gave him a look. He backed out faster than he came in. Lily's story spilled out in pieces. He's been drinking more. Yelling at Mom about dinner, bills, anything. She just takes it. Says he's stressed from work. And tonight? I was upstairs doing homework when I heard her crying. He hit something, someone. When I ran down, he grabbed me and said I'd better learn respect. Then, she touched her cheek gingerly. Then he hit me. My jaw tightened. And the bat? Her lip twitched. Mom's old softball bat was by the door. I grabbed it and went outside. His car was right there. I smashed the windshield. Maybe the headlights too. Good aim, I said quietly. She almost smiled, but it faded fast. Mom locked herself in the bathroom. She always does when he gets like that. Pretend she can't hear anything. That was the part that broke me, the silence. The hiding. The pretending. Not anymore, I said. You're safe now. I'll make sure he never touches either of you again. Because once upon a time, I'd put monsters like Jason Carter behind bars. I hadn't expected to find one living in my own family. But he'd soon learn something important. No one hurts a Reynolds woman and walks away clean. Grandma, I'm scared for Mom. He hasn't touched me like that, but I don't know what he might do if I'm not there. Lily's voice trembled, but her eyes were sharp. Smarter than most adults I'd cross-examined. You don't have to worry about that anymore, I said, rising from my chair, the old fire returning to my veins. What do you mean? I mean Jason Carter just made the worst mistake of his life, hitting a prosecutor's granddaughter. Before she could respond, there was a knock at the door. Officer Daniels poked his head in, face pale. Mrs. Reynolds, Captain Harris is here. He'd like a word. Captain Tom Harris had been my partner back in the early days, when I was cutting my teeth in courtrooms and he was working patrol. We'd gone through a lot together, built our careers on taking down predators who thought they were smarter than the system. Evelyn, he said carefully, stepping inside. I understand there's been some confusion tonight. No confusion, Tom, I replied. Just a very clear case of domestic violence that your officer managed to turn backward. Harris's gaze flicked to Lily. The moment he saw her black eye, his jaw tightened. Daniels, bring me everything on this case. Now. But, sir, Mr. Carter seemed credible. Now. As Daniels left, Harris pulled up a chair and sat across from Lily. Young lady, I owe you an apology. Sometimes good cops make bad calls, especially in the middle of the night. Lily looked at me for reassurance. I nodded. Go ahead, sweetheart. Tell him what happened. When she finished, the room was quiet except for the hum of the fluorescent light overhead. Harris exhaled slowly and rubbed his temples. Daniels, he called when the officer returned with the file. Explain how a 16-year-old with a black eye became our suspect in a domestic call. Sir, the stepfather was convincing. He showed us his damaged car, said the girl's been acting out, his story made sense. Did you photograph her injuries? Silence. Ask how she got that bruise. More silence. Consider that maybe a kid doesn't grab a bat for no reason. Daniel stammered. Mr. Carter said she's been unstable. I stood up slowly. Officer Daniels, how long have you been on the force? 2 years, ma'am. And how many domestic calls have you answered? 30, maybe 40. In those 40 cases, how often was the victim the one in cuffs? He swallowed. Almost never. This case isn't different, I said. You just believed the wrong person. And that's when Jason Carter made his second mistake. He walked right back into the station. He strutted through the doors like he owned the place, radiating arrogance, wearing that smug confidence of men who've gotten away with things too many times. Mid-30s, fit, clean-shaven, eyes cold enough to chill a room. Officer Daniels, he called smoothly, just checking in on Lily. Has she calmed down yet? The nerve of the man. He'd beaten a teenager, framed her, and was now pretending to be the concerned parent. I'd seen this performance before, hell, I'd built a career dismantling it. Mr. Carter, Captain Harris said, stepping forward, I'm Captain Harris. You filed the complaint? Unfortunately, yes, Jason replied, feigning regret. Lily's been having serious behavioral issues. Tonight she lost control completely. Then his gaze found me, and I saw the flicker of panic before he masked it with a smile. Mr. Carter, Harris continued, this is Evelyn Reynolds, Lily's grandmother. Jason extended his hand. Mrs. Reynolds, I'm so sorry for all this. I'm genuinely worried about Lily's mental health. I looked at his hand like it carried disease. I'm sure you are. The air turned thick. Jason forced a smile and shifted back into his polished act. My wife and I have been discussing residential treatment options. Tonight just proved she needs professional help. There it was, get Lily out of the house so he could keep tormenting Sarah without a witness. Mr. Carter, I said evenly, mind if I ask a few questions? Of course. I want to help however I can. How did Lily get that black eye? He didn't even flinch. She fell down the stairs after attacking my car. I tried to stop her, but she was out of control. Which stairs? He hesitated. The front steps. Interesting. Lily had said it happened inside before she went outside. The front steps didn't fit. And where was Sarah during all this? Upstairs, he said quickly. Too upset to come down. Another lie. Sarah had locked herself in the bathroom. He was improvising now, and I could smell it. You mentioned she's had behavioral problems, I pressed. Specific examples. She's been defiant. Talking back to teachers, slamming doors, staying out late. We've tried structure, but she resents having a father figure. Standard teenage rebellion, nothing more. And those scratches on your hands? I asked, nodding at his knuckles. He looked down. She scratched me when I tried to restrain her. Those look like defensive wounds to me, I said, stepping closer, letting my courtroom voice return. The kind you get when someone's fighting off an attack. Very common in domestic assault cases. His fake calm faltered. Mrs. Reynolds, I understand you're protective, but she attacked me and my property. I leaned in, voice low and deadly. Jason, I spent 30 years putting men like you behind bars. You might have fooled a rookie, but you'll never fool me. The station went silent. Even the air conditioner seemed to hold its breath. Jason Carter had no idea, his lies were already unraveling, and this time, the law was standing on the right side of the table. I'm the victim here. Are you? I folded my arms, letting the words hang in the air. Because from where I'm standing, you look like a 42-year-old man who beat up a 16-year-old girl and then convinced the police she was the aggressor. Jason Carter's jaw twitched. That's not what happened. Then you won't mind taking a polygraph. Silence. The kind that fills every corner of a room and makes even the air feel heavy. Jason's mouth opened, then closed again, like a fish gasping for breath. I don't think that's necessary, he muttered. No? You seemed so eager to cooperate just a minute ago. Captain Harris cleared his throat. Mr. Carter, we'll need to re-examine the details of tonight's events. Would you be willing to come in tomorrow morning for a formal interview? Jason checked his watch, trying to sound casual. Actually, I should get home to Sarah. She's probably worried sick. He was already backing toward the door, his bravado slipping fast. Maybe we can revisit the polygraph thing after everyone's had a chance to cool down. Of course, I said sweetly. There's no rush. Domestic violence charges can be filed any time within the statute of limitations. Jason froze mid-step. Domestic violence charges. I gave a small shrug. Oh, did I forget to mention that? Assault, family violence, under Texas Penal Code 22.01. You should look it up. Fascinating reading. For the first time that night, Jason Carter looked afraid. His mask cracked, and the swagger drained out of him completely. He mumbled something about calling his lawyer and nearly tripped over his own feet trying to get out. Captain Harris watched him leave, then glanced at me with something between respect and disbelief. You always did know how to clear a room, Evelyn. Old habits die hard, I said. Now, I need you to get photographs of Lily's injuries, take a full statement, and have Jason Carter brought in for questioning first thing tomorrow. Consider it done, Harris replied, pulling out his phone. But you know he's going to lawyer up before sunrise. I smiled, that old, dangerous kind of smile that hadn't faded with retirement. Let him. I've been taking down domestic abusers longer than he's been perfecting his act. Lily tugged on my sleeve. Grandma, what about Mom? If Jason figures out we're building a case. The fear in her eyes hit me harder than anything that night. She was right, cornered men lash out. Sarah was in danger, and she didn't even know it yet. By 4:17 a.m., I was parked outside Sarah's house, headlights off, watching Jason's dented Camaro in the driveway. Lily slept in the passenger seat, her head resting against the window, her face still bruised. I'd already decided she wasn't setting foot in that house again until Jason Carter was in handcuffs. From the outside, the place looked peaceful. A neat two-story colonial, flower beds trimmed, porch light still glowing. The picture of suburban serenity, and the perfect disguise for a home ruled by fear. My phone buzzed. A text from Captain Harris: Carter just called a lawyer. High-profile firm. You might want to move fast. Of course he did. Men like Jason always planned for the fallout. Control was their oxygen, they never surrendered it easily. I dialed Sarah's cell, praying Jason was asleep. She answered on the third ring, whispering. Mom? Is Lily okay? The police called, but they wouldn't tell me anything. She's fine, sweetheart. She's with me. But we need to talk, and not over the phone. I can't leave right now, she whispered. Jason's not in a good mood. Translation: he was dangerous. Sarah, I'm outside your house. Come out to the car. I can't. If he wakes up and I'm gone. What will he do, Sarah? The line went quiet, filled with all the words she couldn't bring herself to say. Listen to me, I said softly but firmly. Lily told me what's been happening. You need to come with me. Tonight. Mom, you don't understand. Jason's under so much pressure. Work's been hard, and sometimes he just hits you. I cut in. Threatens you. Makes you hide in the bathroom while your daughter listens. A sharp breath. She told you about that. She told me everything. Now get dressed and come outside. I can't. If I leave, he'll ruin me. He controls our money, our accounts, everything. He's threatened to say I'm an unfit mother, told me he has proof of drinking, neglect, even affairs. None of it's true, but he's so convincing. The abuser's playbook. Control, isolation, humiliation. I'd seen it 1,000 times, and now it was my daughter trapped inside it. Sarah, listen carefully, I said. Jason Carter hit my granddaughter. He filed a false report. He's losing control, and that makes him dangerous, but it also makes him vulnerable. Whatever power he thought he had just vanished. Mom. 5 minutes, I said. Get outside. The minutes crawled by. I studied the house, the security sticker on the window, the way Jason's car blocked the driveway. Even his parking screamed control. Then the door opened, slow and careful. Sarah stepped out in jeans and a hoodie, moving like a ghost. She slipped into the back seat and immediately wrapped her arms around Lily. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I should have protected you. Mom, you're bleeding, Lily said softly, touching a cut on her lip. It's nothing, Sarah murmured, pulling up her hood. But when she met my eyes in the mirror, shame flickered there. Please don't look at me like that. Like what? I asked quietly. Like I'm seeing my strong, brilliant daughter reduced to this. Like I'm already planning how to destroy the man who did it. Her voice cracked. You don't understand. If I leave, I lose everything. No, I said, turning fully to face her. He's already taken everything that matters. But that ends now. Mom, you can't fight him, he knows people. So do I said. And they know how to deal with men like Jason Carter. Lily leaned forward. Grandma made the police realize he was lying. They're going to question him tomorrow. Sarah blinked. They are. I nodded. And that's just step one. By the time I'm finished, Jason Carter will wish he'd never heard the Reynolds name. For the first time all night, Sarah almost smiled. And in that tiny flicker of hope, I saw something even stronger than fear: survival. "What are you planning, Mom?" "Justice, sweetheart," I said softly. "Plain and simple, justice." That's when Jason Carter's Camaro roared to life in the driveway, and I realized he'd been awake the entire time. His headlights flared through my windshield, flooding the car with blinding white light. He slammed the gearshift, reversed out of the driveway, and screeched to a halt right behind me, boxing us in against the curb. "Mom," Sarah whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "What do we do?" "We stay calm," I said, reaching for my phone. "And we let Jason make his next mistake." He sat there for nearly a full minute, engine idling, the low growl vibrating through the air. Through his cracked windshield, I could see him gesturing angrily into his phone, probably calling that expensive lawyer Captain Harris warned me about. "Should I call the police?" Lily asked from the back seat. "Not yet," I murmured. "Let's see what he's planning." Finally, Jason climbed out of his car and stalked toward us with the kind of forced composure that barely concealed fury. He rapped on my window hard enough to rattle the glass. I lowered it exactly 2 inches. "Good morning, Jason," I said evenly. "Sarah needs to come home. Now." "I'm afraid that's not happening." His jaw flexed. "She's my wife, Evelyn. This is family business." "Family business?" I let my voice sharpen. "Is that what we're calling assaulting a 16-year-old now?" "I never touched Lily," he snapped. "She attacked me. If you weren't so blinded by bias, you'd see that." The man was committed to his lie, almost admirable, if it weren't so pathetic. "Jason," I said, "I've seen the bruises on Lily's face. I've seen your busted knuckles. And I've spent 30 years listening to men like you justify violence as discipline, control as love. You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I tilted my head. "Let me guess, your story goes something like this: Lily's a troubled teenager, resentful of your authority, jealous of her mother's attention. Last night she snapped, and you just tried to defend yourself." He froze for a fraction of a second, enough to tell me I'd nailed it word for word. "The problem with that," I continued, "is that your defense only works if the jury believes you're credible. And when I'm done presenting your history of intimidation and control, your credibility will be worth less than a used napkin." "I don't have a history of violence," he said, voice rising. "Are you sure about that?" "Because abusers leave breadcrumbs: old girlfriends, co-workers, neighbors who heard things they shouldn't have. It's all there, waiting to be found." For the first time, Jason's confident mask cracked. "You can't just dig into my private life." "Actually," I said coolly, "once you're charged, every pattern becomes evidence. You'd be amazed at what a good investigator can uncover." He turned toward Sarah, who was shrinking in her seat. "Sarah, this is insane. Come home. We can fix this." "She's not going anywhere with you," I said. "You can't keep my wife from me. Watch me." Jason's expression twisted, the fake charm melting away. "You have no idea who you're dealing with, old woman." I almost laughed. "Jason, I've sent better men than you to prison before breakfast. Would you like to add threatening a former prosecutor to your list of charges?" "You're not a prosecutor anymore." "No," I said, smiling faintly. "But I still know plenty who are." He leaned closer, and I caught the sour scent of whiskey on his breath. "This isn't over." "You're absolutely right," I said. "It's just beginning." He glared at me for another moment, struggling to think of something cutting to say, then turned and stalked back to his car. "Is he leaving?" Sarah asked. Jason sat behind the wheel for another tense minute before pulling away. But something about the way he drove off told me this wasn't retreat, it was regrouping. "What now?" Lily asked. Now, I said, starting the car, we go somewhere safe. And I make some calls. Where? My house. Then I'm going to introduce Jason Carter to people who make life very unpleasant for men like him. 20 minutes later, we were in my kitchen. The smell of coffee filled the air while Sarah and Lily sat together on the couch, pale and shaken. I made a list on a yellow legal pad: names, numbers, next steps. Mom, Sarah said softly, what if Jason's lawyer is really good? What if he gets away with it? I looked up and smiled without warmth. Sweetheart, Jason Carter thinks he's playing chess. He doesn't realize he just challenged a grandmaster. Sarah frowned. What do you mean? I mean he made 3 fatal mistakes tonight. First, he laid hands on my granddaughter. Second, he underestimated how meticulous I am when I build a case. And third, he assumed that retiring from the prosecutor's office meant I stopped knowing how to win. I dialed the first number on my list. Sarah Davis, I said when the line connected. It's Evelyn Reynolds. I need a favor. Sarah Davis, my old investigator, never needed much explanation. Tell me who and how fast, she said. Jason Carter. My daughter's husband. I want everything: background, prior complaints, employment history. This one's personal. Then you'll have it by noon tomorrow. When I hung up, my daughter was staring at me, half in awe, half in disbelief. You're really going after him, aren't you? Oh, honey, I said, he has no idea what he started. That's when the doorbell rang. I glanced at the clock, 5:30 a.m. Through the front window, I saw Jason standing on the porch, holding a bouquet of grocery store roses and wearing his most innocent smile. The transformation was almost comical. The violent, snarling man from an hour ago was gone, replaced by a polished charmer who looked like he should be running for office. He brought flowers, Lily whispered. Classic tactic, I said quietly. When intimidation fails, manipulators pivot to performance. He knocked again, voice raised for the neighbors. Mrs. Reynolds, I brought these for Sarah. I just want to apologize for the misunderstanding tonight. Misunderstanding, I muttered. That's one word for it. Mom, Sarah said, eyes wide, he's trying to make you look unreasonable. The neighbors will think he's the victim. She was right. Jason was rewriting the story before dawn broke, casting himself as the remorseful husband and me as the overprotective meddler. I opened the door, keeping the chain locked. It's 5:30 in the morning, Jason. I know, he said smoothly, flashing his best smile. I just couldn't sleep knowing Sarah and Lily were upset. I came to make things right. He held up the flowers like a peace offering. I just want to talk to my wife for a few minutes. That's not going to happen, I said. Jason's smile twitched, irritation flashing in his eyes. Mrs. Reynolds, I understand you're protective, but Sarah and I are adults. We can handle our own problems, without outside interference. Outside interference? I repeated, voice calm and cold. Jason, you stopped being a husband the moment you became a threat. And this time, his smile finally disappeared. He was already spinning the story, turning me into the meddling mother-in-law who just couldn't mind her own business. Jason, the problem isn't me, I said evenly. The problem is that you assaulted a 16-year-old girl and tried to have her arrested for fighting back. That's not what happened, Evelyn, and you know it, Jason replied, his voice calm and calculated. Lily's been struggling lately. She's had these emotional outbursts. Last night was just one of them. I'm hoping we can get her some professional help. Professional help. He was still trying to paint my granddaughter as unstable. The only one who needs help is you, Jason, I said. Preferably anger management counseling, behind bars. Jason actually chuckled, like he found the whole thing amusing. Mrs. Reynolds, you used to be a prosecutor, didn't you? But you're retired now. You can't throw around accusations and expect anyone to take you seriously. Watch me. Sarah, Jason called out, raising his voice. Sweetheart, come talk to me. Let's go home and work this out like adults. She's not going anywhere with you, I said firmly. Jason's smile tightened. Actually, unless Sarah's under arrest, or you've somehow become her legal guardian, you can't stop her from leaving with her husband. He was technically right, which made it worse. That kind of correctness was dangerous when it came from a manipulator. Sarah was an adult. If she chose to go, there was nothing I could legally do. Sarah, Jason said softly, I love you. I love Lily. What happened last night was just a misunderstanding. We can fix this. I heard movement behind me. Sarah stood in the hallway, torn between fear and guilt. Jason had found his way in again, her hope that maybe, somehow, peace was still possible. Mom, Sarah whispered, maybe I should talk to him. Absolutely not. Jason's eyes brightened when he heard her voice. 5 minutes, Sarah. Just 5 minutes. Sarah took a step forward, and I realized I was about to lose her to his control again. Sarah, I said quickly, before you decide anything, answer me this. What happens when you go home with him tonight and the police show up tomorrow to arrest him? She froze. What do you mean? I mean Jason is about to be charged with domestic assault, I said. And when that happens, there'll be a mandatory protective order keeping him away from you and Lily. If you go home now, you'll be trapped when everything collapses. Jason's calm cracked for the first time. There aren't going to be any charges. Lily attacked me. Jason, I already spoke with Captain Harris, I said. Lily's injuries have been photographed and logged. Her statement's on file. And thanks to your little scene at the station, you're now the prime suspect in a domestic violence investigation. You're bluffing. Am I? Sarah Davis is already running your background. By tomorrow, we'll know everything, your past relationships, job history, and every complaint ever filed against you. Jason's mask slipped. His confidence wavered. You can't do that. I already am, I said. And here's something you should know about investigators who handle abuse cases, they're experts at finding patterns, even ones you thought you buried. Jason stared at me, all charm gone. Then he turned back to Sarah. If you don't come home with me right now, he said, I'll know where you stand. You're either with me or against me. There it was, the abuser's favorite line. Choose me or lose everything else. That's not love, Jason, I said. That's control. It's reality. Sarah can either come home and work on our marriage, or she can stay here and destroy it. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. She looked between us, torn apart. I need time to think. No, Jason snapped. You need to decide, right now. And that was the moment she finally saw him clearly. Not the charming husband, not the misunderstood man, but the manipulator who'd been hiding behind both. I'm staying here, Sarah said quietly. The bouquet Jason had brought hit the porch with a dull thud. Fine, he said. But when you're done playing games, remember, I won't wait forever. He walked away, leaving crushed flowers on my doorstep like a warning. By noon the next day, my kitchen table looked like a command center. Legal pads everywhere, laptop open to case files, and my phone buzzing with calls from old colleagues eager to help take down an abuser. Sarah Davis's preliminary report was worse than I'd imagined. 3 prior relationships, I said, scanning the file. All ended with restraining orders or police complaints, every one of them mysteriously dropped. So he's done this before, Lily said quietly. Multiple times. And he's gotten more sophisticated each time. I turned the page. First wife, Amanda Wright. Filed charges in 2018, but dropped them after Jason's lawyer painted her as vindictive. Second wife, Melissa Carter, filed too, then backed off after he threatened to ruin her career. Third, Rachel Nguyen, documented everything, but the case was dismissed on a technicality. Sarah looked stricken. He said he'd make me look unstable too. That's his pattern, I said. He isolates strong women and dismantles their confidence until they doubt themselves. Sarah blinked hard. I didn't deserve it. Of course not, I said gently. None of you did. Lily leaned forward. Grandma, what happened to the other women? Sarah Davis found Amanda Wright. She's willing to testify, but only if she's protected. Protected from what? Sarah asked. Jason's history of retaliation. Never enough for an arrest, but enough to terrify. My phone rang. Officer Paul Daniels. Evelyn, he said, we tried to bring Jason Carter in for questioning this morning. Tried? He's gone. Neighbors saw him loading suitcases around 7 a.m. We've got an APB out, but his lawyer says he's visiting family and will cooperate later. I wasn't surprised. Men like Jason always ran when they felt cornered. What about the warrant? I asked. Signed an hour ago, domestic assault, obstruction, and witness intimidation. I glanced at Lily. Jason's visit this morning qualifies as intimidation, under Texas law. Things were escalating faster than expected, good for justice, bad for safety. Paul, I need a patrol car outside my house, I said. He's unpredictable. Already arranged, he replied. Officer Davis will be stationed across the street. After I hung up, Sarah looked at me, pale and trembling. Mom, what if he does something really crazy? What if he comes back, with a gun? It was a fair question. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't over. Domestic violence situations always turned most dangerous when the abuser felt cornered. Sweetheart, I said softly, that's why we're being careful. That's why there's a police car outside. And that's why Jason Carter is about to learn that attacking a prosecutor's family carries consequences he never imagined. What do you mean, Mom? Sarah asked. I opened another file on my laptop. Remember when Jason threatened to destroy your career? Well, two can play that game. Her eyes widened. Mom, what did you do? I called Judge Wallace, I said. You remember her from my DA days. She's now on the family court bench, and she's very interested in Jason's pattern of domestic abuse. Why would she care? Sarah asked, still trying to catch up. Because Jason's been married 3 times, I said. That means there are likely custody disputes involving kids from those marriages. Judge Wallace is reviewing his previous cases for signs of abuse the courts may have missed. Lily, scrolling on her phone, suddenly froze. Grandma, I just Googled his name. There are already articles about him being wanted for domestic assault. Local news? I asked. No, it's on some kind of legal blog, she said, reading aloud. Local businessman Jason Carter, wanted on domestic violence charges, has a documented history of abusing women and evading accountability through legal intimidation. I almost smiled. That would be Angela Monroe's blog. She's a journalist who exposes abusers who manipulate the justice system. You called her too, Sarah said. I called everyone, I admitted. Jason Carter's carefully crafted life is about to sink under the weight of his own lies. Sarah looked pale. Mom, what if this makes him more dangerous? What if he decides he's got nothing left to lose? Before I could answer, Officer Daniels knocked on the door. When I looked through the window, he was talking urgently into his radio. Mrs. Reynolds, he called, please stay inside. We just got a report, Jason Carter's car was spotted 2 blocks away. Then came the sound of shattering glass. From the kitchen. Something heavy hit the floor. Daniels was already calling for backup as I ushered Sarah and Lily into the hallway, away from the windows. "Stay down and stay together," I told them, feeling that old surge of courtroom adrenaline. From the doorway, I could see a brick lying among shards of glass, wrapped in a note. Jason's signature move. Grandiose, dramatic, cruel. "Mrs. Reynolds." Daniels called. "I'm coming in." Moments later, he entered with his weapon drawn, moving with sharp precision through the rooms until he declared the house secure. "He's gone for now," he said, holstering his gun. "But he left you this." Using tongs from my kitchen drawer, he unwrapped the note. Even from across the room, I recognized Jason's slanted handwriting. "This doesn't end until you stop interfering." Classic intimidation, I said to Sarah and Lily, who were trembling. "It's working," Lily whispered. "No, honey," I said. "It's proof we're winning. Men like Jason only break things when they can't control people anymore." Daniels photographed the evidence. "Mrs. Reynolds, I strongly advise you to relocate tonight. This guy's escalating fast." "Where would we even go?" Sarah asked. "I can arrange a spot at a safe house," Daniels said. "It's secure, confidential, and built for cases like this." The thought of hiding grated against everything in me. I'd spent 3 decades putting violent men behind bars, not running from them. But I looked at Sarah and Lily, and pride wasn't worth their safety. "Let me make a few calls first," I said. But before I could, my phone rang. Jason's number. "Don't answer," Daniels said. "I think we need to hear this," I replied, switching to speaker. "Mrs. Reynolds," Jason's voice came through, low and dangerous. "I hope you got my message." "I did," I said calmly. "Destruction of property, criminal mischief, intimidation, you're collecting charges faster than I can file them." Jason laughed, though it was empty. "You think you can ruin me and walk away? You think I'll just take it?" "You ruined yourself, Jason," I said. "The day you laid hands on my granddaughter." "Lily isn't your granddaughter anymore," he said sharply. "Sarah and Lily belong to me. I decide what happens to them." The possessiveness in his tone made my blood run cold. He truly believed they were his to own. "Where are you, Jason?" "Somewhere you'll never find me," he said. "But don't worry, I'll be in touch." The call cut off. Daniels immediately radioed it in. "He's officially crossed state lines. That's a federal offense now. The FBI will take over." "Good," I said. "The more eyes on him, the better." Still, I knew Jason Carter wasn't finished. Men like him rarely were. "Grandma," Lily whispered, "what if he decides that if he can't have Mom, no one can?" It was the thought I'd been avoiding, the one that was all too real. When abusers lost control completely, they often turned to murder-suicide as their last act of dominance. "That's not going to happen," I said, forcing steady calm into my voice. "How can you be sure?" Sarah asked. "Because Jason Carter is about to learn that threatening a Reynolds woman was the worst mistake of his life." Just then, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email. Jason's not as clever as he thinks. A friend." I opened my laptop. There was an email from Justice for Women with a video attachment. "What is it?" Sarah asked. I pressed play. Jason's face filled the screen, sitting in what looked like a cheap motel room, speaking to someone off camera. "The old lady thinks she can intimidate me," he sneered. "I've handled women like her before. They always back down." A voice behind the camera asked, "And if she doesn't?" Jason's expression hardened. "Then I'll do whatever it takes to get my family back. And if I can't, I'll make sure Evelyn Reynolds regrets ever interfering in my marriage." The video ended in silence. Who sent this? Daniels asked, already reaching for his radio. I don't know, I said. But that's a confession, threatening murder across state lines. And in that moment, I realized Jason Carter had made his final mistake. He'd underestimated not only me, but everyone ready to take him down. The next morning, my living room became an FBI command post. Special Agent Dana Keller, a veteran of domestic terror and stalking cases, sat across from me, her eyes sharp with focus. The hunter had officially become the hunted. Mrs. Reynolds, Agent Keller began, her tone steady but urgent. The footage you received yesterday is critical evidence. But we need to talk about where it came from. The sender, Justice for Women, isn't some random advocate. It's part of an underground network of domestic violence survivors who investigate abusers themselves. Vigilantes? I asked. Not exactly, she replied. More like a coalition, survivors using their skills to protect others. One of Jason Carter's former victims, Melissa Hart, has been tracking him for years. She's the one who recorded that video. Sarah looked up from her mug. You mean she's been following him? In a way, Agent Keller said. After Jason stalked her post-divorce, Melissa taught herself surveillance, data recovery, and digital tracing. She's been quietly compiling evidence, and what she's built is impressive. Keller opened her laptop. Dozens of organized folders filled the screen, photos of Jason with multiple women, police reports filed and later withdrawn, medical records showing repeated injuries, and bank statements revealing how he drained and controlled his partners financially. Melissa Hart has been constructing a federal case against Jason for 3 years, Keller said. Your granddaughter's assault was the final piece we needed. Lily's eyes widened. So, there are other people trying to stop him. Oh, yes, Keller replied. Jason Carter picked the wrong women to terrorize, smart, brave women who refused to disappear quietly. I felt a fierce admiration rise in my chest. These women had transformed their pain into power, building the kind of defense network abusers never see coming. Agent Keller, I asked, what's his current status? We've located him at a motel outside Dallas. He's paying cash, using burner phones, but Melissa's tracking his digital footprint through his associates. We should have him in custody within 24 hours. And then? Sarah asked. Federal charges for interstate flight, witness intimidation, and stalking, plus state charges for domestic assault. He's facing a long prison sentence. Sarah was quiet for a moment, then asked softly, Agent Keller, what happens to women like me, the ones who stayed too long? Keller's voice softened. Mrs. Reynolds, abuse is never the victim's fault. Jason is the only one responsible for his actions. Sarah blinked back tears. But I should have protected Lily better. You survived, Keller said gently. And when you had the chance to leave, you did. That's what matters. Before I could respond, my phone rang, an unknown number. Agent Keller nodded for me to answer. Mrs. Reynolds. Jason's voice oozed through the receiver, cold and deliberate. Enjoying your little FBI conference? Keller began tracing the call, signaling for me to keep him talking. Jason, where are you? Close enough to watch, he hissed. You think you're clever. You think this is over. From what I see, I replied evenly, you're the one hiding from law enforcement. Jason's laugh was sharp. You think arresting me will fix anything? There'll always be others, younger, easier to control. And when I get out, I'll find them. The threat chilled the room, but it told us everything. Jason wasn't remorseful. He was already plotting his next victim. You're not getting out, Jason, I said. Not this time. We'll see. I've fooled better people than you, Mrs. Reynolds. Keller flashed her tablet toward me. We've got him, she whispered. 2 miles away. Jason, I said into the phone, you're not the only one who can run an investigation. What's that supposed to mean? It means Melissa Hart documented everything. Amanda Blake kept every police report you tried to bury. Lisa Chen has hospital files proving what you did. You're not facing one woman, you're facing all of them. For the first time, his voice cracked. That's impossible. You silenced them once, I said, but they found each other. You created the very thing that will destroy you. Keller motioned for quiet as her team mobilized. Jason, it's over, I said. Surrender now, and maybe you can still face this alive. No, he said tightly. If I can't have my family, nobody wins. The line went dead. Keller barked into her radio, all units, suspect is mobile and making threats. Consider him armed and dangerous. Lily grabbed my hand. Grandma, what does he mean nobody wins? Before I could answer, Officer Daniels burst through the door. Mrs. Reynolds, Jason Carter just drove past your house. He's circling. Keller drew her weapon. Everyone away from the windows. The roar of Jason's car filled the driveway. Through the blinds, I saw him gripping the wheel, staring straight at my front door, a man cornered by his own violence. Mrs. Reynolds, Keller said urgently. Get to the back room. Now. But I shook my head. I've faced worse men in court. If he's thinking about surrender or suicide, he'll only listen to me. Keep him talking, Keller warned. I dialed Jason's number. He picked up instantly. Mrs. Reynolds. Jason, you're surrounded. There's no way out but surrender. I know. His tone was eerily calm. I've been thinking about what you said, about all those women working together. They're not working against you, Jason. They're working for justice. Justice, he repeated bitterly. You know what's funny? I did love Sarah. I loved Lily too, in my own way. No, Jason, I said. Love doesn't bruise faces or break spirits. I was trying to teach them strength, discipline. The world's cruel. That's not strength, I said. That's control. Jason was silent, the hum of his engine the only sound. Finally, he said, you want to know what I realized tonight? What's that? I'm exactly what you said, a predator. A man who hurts women because it makes me feel powerful. The admission hit like a stone. Few ever said it aloud. If you know that, I said quietly, you can still change. No, I can't. I've tried. Therapy, anger classes, promises, all lies. I'm good at pretending I've changed. That's the problem, Mrs. Reynolds. Predators don't get better. We get smarter. My stomach turned. Then what are you planning to do? I'm planning to make sure I never hurt anyone again. Before I could respond, his car door opened. Keller shouted orders. Tactical lights lit the night. Jason walked slowly toward my porch, hands visible. Jason, what do you want? I called out. I want to tell Sarah and Lily it wasn't their fault. They were good people. Better than I deserved. You can say that in court. No, Mrs. Reynolds. Not this time. That's when I saw the small device in his hand. At first, I thought it was a phone, then realized it was a detonator. Keller, I said softly, he's got a bomb. Everything blurred, shouts, lights, movement. Jason looked right at me through the glass. Tell them I'm sorry, he said. Tell them to live. Jason, don't. I yelled. The explosion was smaller than expected, contained. He'd placed the device just far enough from the house to spare us. When the smoke cleared, Jason Carter was gone, ending the terror himself. 3 months later, I sat at my kitchen table reading an email from Melissa Hart. She'd launched a foundation for survivors, one that helped women rebuild, protect themselves, and hold abusers accountable. Sarah was back in school, training to become a counselor for domestic violence victims. Lily was in therapy, thriving in ways that made me prouder than words could say. Jason Carter had been right about one thing: predators rarely change. But what he never understood was the strength of the women he tried to break. We didn't just endure him, we built something stronger from the ruins. As I poured my morning coffee, my phone rang again. Another grandmother. Another frightened voice. Another story that began, "I got a call in the middle of the night." I reached for my notebook. Because Evelyn Reynolds wasn't finished helping women like Sarah and Lily. Not yet. Not ever.